Hey guys, today we're going to do a walk around on the adventure trailer Habitat camper. Coming up.
A bad day. That's
Yeah! Today we're going to take some time and do a walk around of my adventure trailer Habitat, kind of why I chose this platform, what my opinions are of it so far, and what my plans are with it in the future. First off, I wanted to take you guys through the process of how I set up the tent. Let's just dive right into it. So once you get to camp and get you completely level, I flip out my two sides. So in here I have everything that I need to get this thing set up as well as taken down. Got my little shorty ladder that I bought from Home Depot. I think I paid like 20 bucks for it or something like that. And I've got my support poles as well as the poles that help you set up the Habitat. Now I don't always use the ladder. I actually have my rock sliders built in a way to where I can access pretty much all of the Habitat from jumping on the rock sliders as well as stepping on the back rear tires. I've been able to do it, but the ladder does make it a little bit easier, and I think I am going to use it for the purpose of this video. Eventually I might replace the ladder with just a stepping case, or I might keep it in. I've yet to decide that quite yet. Then from there, I'm going to grab my poles. I'm going to detent the little spring latch there. And this is just a sleeve that connects basically both of the poles together. You have also a little spring detent there on this side. And it locks both the poles together. Now that I have this giant metal bow staff, I'm going to locate the knob on the side of the Habitat that recesses into this little spring-loaded cavity right here on the side of the Habitat. All right, so now that I have the pole attached, I'm going to go through the process of unhooking the front latches that keep the Habitat tensioned down and closed. This will allow the gas struts on the back of the Habitat to take over and kind of assist you in opening up the whole thing. So from that point, it's been fully released, and you're just going to push it back towards the rear and keeping this pole as close to the vehicle as possible. So once you have it to this point, I find it easiest to undo your detent here, separate the poles, collapse your spanner piece together. And I usually put these poles so that the little detent, spring-loaded detent is on the bottom half, just so it makes it easier to hook them together depending on which side you go with when you collapse the whole thing. So I let that one hang so I have something I can grab a hold of. I attach this at the bottom and rest it on my jerry can. And then these gas struts are pretty stout. I don't know what they're rated for per side. It takes quite a bit of force to pull this thing down far enough to get these poles latched on. So I find it way easier to get latched onto the side of the Habitat at the base and then do the second one by pulling down as you latch it with your other hand. I'll show you what I mean. Now that I've got a hold of it, I take that pole off, I grab this pole, align, and it's locked into place. That takes way less effort than doing it the opposite way. Maybe if you had longer arms, you can actually reach that across there, but for me, with these short little stubby things, I gotta make it work the way I need it to. Then, from there, you just do the opposite on this side. Boom. Okay, cool. Now the Habitat's open, it's locked. It's got the additional bars in there to help support your weight when you're crawling on the actual sleeping platform. The sleeping platform holds up to 600 pounds. From this point, you got a couple more things to do to get the Habitat completely deployed. I'll take you through those next. Now what I typically do is I take these straps and get them set up first, You wanna make sure everything, all the webbing, nylon webbing is in line. It's just got this little retention loop you take, and I just loosely put that in there on each side. From there, you take the weather skirting, untuck it all the way around, and you can cinch it up. Take a second and tuck that extra cordage under. You got a couple of snaps. So it's got this little flap that goes over the edges and should stop any rain from intruding and all that kind of stuff. Mine is a little bit tight, and I'm not sure if it's because the poles are just a slight bit too long and I need to trim those up, or the fabric needs to kind of wear in and become more malleable so it sits down. But my solution to make sure that that isn't flapping in the night or anything like that is to use these little tarp clips. They're little, tarp clips that you can hook onto the side of a tarp, tension them down. They've got these little teeth. I've been using these to hold this little piece of weather stripping down so that if it does rain, the rain isn't gonna come through. I'll show you how I connect those. Yeah, I take this little tarp clip, go about 6 inches in, loosely grab the side of that, take it around the side and just clip it right into the latch right there. And that just helps tension down that full front weather stripping lip so that I don't get any rain in there in the middle of the night. From that point, I'd say the habitat's pretty much done being set up from the outside. Next, I'll take you inside, kind of walk you through what I do to finish setting it up in there and show you what it looks like. All right, it's pretty dang dark in here right now. Let's get it opened up so we can let some of that natural light in and take a closer look. On the sides, you have matching doors, passenger and driver. The top section is a screen, or you can choose to fully open up and zip out the window. Got these convenient little stash pockets for the doors right there. A little bit more light in. So the habitat comes with this support beam that spans from right to left. This basically allows it, about 12 to 16 inches back from the front platform area. You'll set this when you go to close the truck up or the tent up, and it will allow the fabric to kind of rest on this rather than droop down into your truck bed. Go ahead and just slide it up to the platform at the front. It nests right there. And then I'll show you guys how the front stargazer window kind of opens up. You can zip down this and have access to the great outdoors there. What you do, pull this tent material up, lock it into place temporarily with that, shoving all this extra material in these little corner pockets. On either side, on a really nice day where you want to get the maximum amount of cross breeze and sunlight coming in the front here, you're going to want to hop up and get this fabric completely tucked out of the way using the clips and the nylon loops. I'll show you how to do that. You can just hop right up here. Clip that in, tighten it down, roll these sides up, good to go. That's another really cool thing about this habitat. You actually have access to your roof area out here. So if you have a roof rack, which I don't, but I eventually plan on putting on the truck, this gives you super easy access to get anything off of it. Or you can just sit up here and enjoy looking at the stars once the sun goes down. Okay, from there, still really dark in here. Take you up to the bed. Yeah. Forward window completely opened. I've got both side doors open. Now I'm going to work on getting the bed all opened up so we get some more light up there. Sorry you got to see this side of me, guys. You have a window on either side, right here. That kind of hugs this center pole. I did forget to mention it. This tent is made for adventure trailers in partnership with Nemo Tents. So they've been in the game a long time. Got nylon straps on either side to roll that up and tension it open. And then all the way in the back, that window opens as well. What's kind of cool about this forwardmost window, got this little bar sewn into the fabric so you can hook that there and zip it up. And it leaves a little vent right here. I actually have another Nemo tent that does the same thing, so that's pretty cool. In the corners on either side, you have some little porthole windows. So as you guys know by now, I have a 2006 Toyota Tundra double cab, so it's a first generation of the Tundras. And Adventure Trailer does not make an exact fit model for my generation of truck, which left me with a little bit of a question mark of how I was going to get this camper bolted to my truck. I purchased mine from a company in Issaquah, Washington called Mule Expedition Outfitters. I think I was one of their first installs of any adventure trailer campers on the back of a rig, and Mario, the owner of Adventure Trailers, actually flew up from Prescott, Arizona and assisted with the install of this habitat on my truck. I'll show you guys how we went about bolting it down. Now, the habitat on my truck is actually made for a long bed double cab Tacoma. The Tacoma beds are not as wide as my Tundra bed, so it actually sits in on the edges of the bed sides a little bit, which I really ended up liking in the long run because it kind of gives it a slimmer profile and less for branches and other stuff on the trail to grab a hold of. As you can see here, it kind of sits in from the side a little bit. And how we went about attaching this to the bedside was to install a piece of L-channel angle steel to the bedside with 4 bolts all the way down. So that drills through the side of the bed, and then the habitat is actually bolted through the lip of the habitat right there through that same piece of L bracket, sandwiching it down. Now, it does have purchase on the lip of the bed right here, so the weight is actually being supported by the bedside, but the downward compression to pin it to the bedside is being supported by these 4 bolting points through the side and through the top of this L channel right here. I went through a little bit of a challenge to get this thing completely sealed up. I actually ended up taking it off and changing around the style of seal that I used. On the advice of Mario, used this rubberized sealant called Lexel. In a whole bunch of places I was getting water intrusion. I think most of that is just because I'm trying to fit, I'm trying to fit a camper onto a truck bed that it's not really designed for. But at this point, I feel like I've pretty much got the weather and elements sealed out of the thing. And I will link in the comments below all of the weather stripping and stuff that I used. You can find it on Amazon. Just click the link and it'll bring you right there. On the outside, I opted just to go with the side port hatch on the one side because I've got plans for the other side. I'm not going to need to access that area over there. That's a super nice weather tight little access to grabbing gear and stuff out of this side window. So the sides of the habitat are actually insulated. There's like this honeycomb wafer, I don't know, it's a composite on the inside panels of this, so it insulates decently in there. And to help insulate the bottom of my truck bed, I hunted around for a long time and found one of the bed rugs that was made for my truck. They don't make them anymore, but if you have a newer truck, you could probably locate one of those. And it really helps cut down not only the sound in the back of the truck, but also helps insulate for some of the heat retention in there. So let's take a minute. We could talk about, why I decided to go with the adventure trailer habitat over some of the other options that are out there, and kind of what my plans are for it in the future. On my last truck build, the Old Green Bastard, my 1987 extended cab Toyota pickup, I had a Wildernest camper, and those things were made in I think the 70s and 80s, or maybe it's the 80s and into the 90s, and then the company went out of business. They're somewhat rare to find. Folding backwards to opened up sideways, but kind of the same idea. Fiberglass rather than aluminum, and tension springs rather than gas struts, but a similar concept. What I really loved about that is being in the Pacific Northwest when we have some inclement weather come in, you're blue tarp camping it a lot of the times. What I liked about the Wilderness is that gave you a place where you could get in, out of the elements, but still have the place to kind of hang out and dry off a little bit when things kind of take a turn for the worse. Also, with this type of a setup, I like that I can fully stand up. I'm only 5'9", I'm not super tall. I've got another 2 or 3 feet above me, but I can fully stand up in this thing in the morning, get coffee ready if I want to do a little bit of that on the inside, or even bring in my stove and cook in here with one of the windows open, get dressed. It makes it really convenient to kind of do everything you need to do without having to crouch or bend over and put pants on and all that you'd usually get in like a rooftop tent or a backpacking style tent. Another huge selling point for me going with the adventure trailer habitat was kind of future-proofing a little bit. My last truck I knew was kind of going to be a short-term build. At the time I built it, I was single, and then when I met my now wife, Kelsey, we were able to go on some trips, but we have an 80-pound dog, and she was not excited about getting into the back of the extended cab area back there behind the seats. It just wasn't comfortable for her at all, let alone once we eventually have kids. The cool thing and one of the biggest allure to me going with this adventure trailer habitat is that I really have the capability to expand the sleeping potential and the space in this thing. Probably sleep, I mean, at least 4 full-size adults if we're going out with friends or something like that. But more so for when we eventually have kids, we'll be able to set this thing up to accommodate our family growing in the future, which is definitely in the plans. Now, there's a lot of other companies out there that make some really cool campers. Some that I was definitely considering when I was looking around were, you know, the 4-wheel campers, the Go Fast campers, the Alucabs, all that kind of stuff. After talking to a couple of people who own habitats and through the multiple question and answer sessions I went through with Mario, the owner of the company, or I believe her name is Janine in the office, I not only knew that we could find a way to make the habitat fit my truck, but also felt confident in them standing behind their products long term with great customer service. Now, with being in the Pacific Northwest, having a tent like this, although this is a super high quality material, there is some maintenance that comes along with owning it. You're going to want to spend some time every year at the beginning of your camping season, taking it out, and when you have a couple of nice days, season it, which is basically wetting the whole surface of the tent down, allowing those fibers of the material to swell and then kind of seal back together. Along with seasoning the tent, you're going to also want to go through and seam seal where it's necessary. This is something that you have to do on most tents when you're in the Pacific Northwest every year, just to make sure that you're taking care of your stuff. With any rooftop tent, this is no different. You're going to want to, after a trip out, make sure this thing is aired out and dry. So my next steps for the habitat and the truck is to kind of build out the interior organization, power systems, possible heating system down the road, all that kind of stuff, just to really increase the level of livability this thing has, and honestly, creature comforts. I've got the whole system kind of mapped out of my brain, and I'm starting to play around with actual materials to see how it's all going to come together. So that'll be a video, hopefully sooner than later, that will be coming up. Adventure Trailers actually just released a complete awning room enclosure for the back of the habitat, and I've been debating that, which completely will separate off this area, giving you a nice outdoor living space as well. My whole goal for this truck is to be super mobile and quick to deploy. So I want to be able to take it from once it's parked and leveled, I want to be able to deploy it in less than 10 minutes and fold it all up and put it away in less than 15 minutes. That's the hope, at least. Now, since the sun's going down, I'm going to show you guys how I go through the process of closing the whole thing back up right now. Okay, I did want to show you this real quick. This cheap little grip vise, whatever you want to call it, I got at Harbor Freight, and I used this to help me close this bad boy down. You'll see how right now. So it gives you a little bit of tension while you go through the process of making sure all the tent material is fully tucked in on the sides and on the front. I hope you enjoyed the video going over the adventure trailer habitat. If you have any comments or questions, please throw them in the comment section below. As usual, I will throw up links in the description section below to any of the products featured in the video that I can think of. If you like this, please consider subscribing to the channel and mashing that like button to let me know I've done a good job. You can also follow us on Instagram at Evergreen Overland, as well as evergreenoverland.com. Thanks for watching.